All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with David Roy Newby. David, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I'll tell you, this is cool having you here today because you and I go back a ways.
Hmm.
And and then I put a post up on Facebook not too long ago talking about a an experience at a Dan Kennedy a GKSC event years ago, and come to find out that like, oh, you were at that event too, except you and I didn't know each other at that time.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think that was like the 2010 or 11 event, and then we met like 4 or 5 years later. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And but we were definitely running in the same circles, that's for sure. And
Hmm.
I see that Dan Kennedy bobblehead doll on the shelf behind you there too. So
Yes, I have Prince and Dan Kennedy and a few others, but he's the only one
yeah.
with both.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm trying to remember do you remember how you and I actually met for the first time, where it was or what the circumstances were?
I remember it very well. It was at Kennedy's, his Cleveland. Remember, like his $5,000, like only 100 people could
Yep.
come.
Yeah.
It was the event. I knew Eric Dewey already. And
Okay.
texted with him to meet, and we ended up meeting in the lobby. And you guys were talking when I walked in. So
Okay.
Kennedy's convertible Rolls Royce was in the front. I came in. I think I was wearing my first purple suit I ever bought, and then Eric was wearing a suit. You know, he's French, and they're very dapper.
Yeah.
And he introduced us, and that's how we've known each other.
Oh, okay.
Shout
Okay.
out to Eric Dewey.
Yeah. And Eric and I, man, we're still close friends to this day as well, just as you and I are. And
Mhm.
what a testament right there to the power of right relationships. And of course, that's what this podcast is all about. The right relationship. What's interesting and what's really been standing out for me lately, especially, is
Mhm.
that, I've got a lot of relationships in my life that go back years. That I mean, Joe Polish was my introduction to direct response marketing all the way back in 1995. And so
Mhm.
that's
The
30
carpet
years
days,
back.
yeah.
And it's interesting because now, you know, relationships that I've had for a while, and I'm sure you can experience this too, is that they're far more valuable today than it was when we first met, because since that time we've both grown so much. We've made discoveries, we've figured things out, we've got traction in doing what we're doing. And
Mhm.
so those relationships that began whatever 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago are far more valuable today.
Right.
And so I just want to start by just kind of having a conversation with you. I'm just going to ask you some questions and draw some really cool stuff out of you. We're going to have a great conversation here. I'll just start really simple one. What do you do, David, and who do you serve?
Um, so they say that the average person today has like four careers, like four 10-year careers. I sort of joke I had like four careers working for others in my 20s, but been an entrepreneur since age 30, and bought all this stuff in my 20s, some infomercials and Carlton sheets, and I even bought one of Dean Graziosi's like $5,000 packages when he was teaching people how to be car dealers and sell
Okay.
the cars online when eBay was brand new.
Yep.
And that's a fun little thing with Joe and Dean and the whole Arizona connection. But yeah, I the last 3 years, my best friend died very suddenly a year into the COVID lockdowns,
Okay.
and best shape of his life. Could you imagine like if you had a friend who was always 50 pounds overweight and then they like lose all of it and they have a six pack? This was my best friend, like from 20 to 2022.
Okay.
And he was doing jujitsu 4 days a week and he looked like he did in college. And then he just died suddenly, and it was such a
Wow.
shock to the system. And so, and he had like teenage kids. We have kids around the same age. His oldest was 18 at the time, and his youngest was 11. And I'm godfather to two of those kids. So it really hit me like a ton of bricks. My sons were depressed during the lockdowns. Like a lot of young people were like, "Is this the new normal of the world? Like this isn't fun." They
Yeah.
want to be with their friends and have
Yeah.
connection. We all thrive with connection as humans. So I really prayed and asked God, like, what can I do to honor my friend's legacy? Because at that time, I had talked to, I think, 126 billionaires. And I was like, this is not the world I want to live in. And I want to do something to improve the world to honor my friend's legacy. And he used to work on 2 and 4 and $5 billion infrastructure deals in the Philippines. like building huge highways systems, building nuclear power plants, expanding electric grids, like large scale stuff.
Hmm.
And I never desired to do business at that level, Kevin, but I did like always want to make a big impact. And so I, for like 3 months, to deal with my own emotional pain and getting over like the sudden loss of my best friend, I was like, God, what can I do to honor his legacy? And every day I have a morning routine. I do my Wim Hof breathing, meditate, I pray, I read the Bible, I meditate in a couple of verses I read in the Bible. And I started getting all these visions like in the woods behind my house, Kevin, like 4 months into praying in that 6 month period, like tokenized gold in the ground. And I'm like, God, that's really, really hard. Like you have banking laws, you have central bank Basel regulation about gold, you have crypto laws, and you have commodities laws. Four different levels of laws you have to comply with. Like if you ever ask me, Kevin, what do I think about tokenizing in-ground gold and making a crypto token backed by gold? I refer you to like the co-founder of Ripple and Brock Pierce. Like these are the people I would introduce you to. I would not think, oh, let me go do it. That would have been never, ever, ever crossed my mind, that thought. But I've been faithful to the idea. I'm like, trust a divine guidance, a premonition. Some people call it intuition.
Hmm.
And I was earnestly seeking to do something really great to help my sons and honor my best friend. And I've been doing that the last 2.5 years. So yeah, we're buying gold mines and we're tokenizing it. But it came out of like maybe you would say the biggest pain of the last 7 years of my life, the sudden death of my best friend, that led to sometimes the seeming worst thing can lead to a new chapter that God has for you that you might never pursue on your own if it's not for a really big pattern interrupt. So that's how I came to do what we're doing.
Wow. Wow. So over the last few years, then you've obviously you've made you made some traction and progress in this and stuff. And so from where you're at now, from your current vantage point, what's your vision for this going forward, David?
So most people aren't in crypto. We talked right before we started recording, right? Like some people have only ever had say Americans. They've only ever had an American bank account. They never had a foreign bank account.
Mhm.
Some Americans have had an HSB account that they opened in LA or wherever, and they have maybe they have a euro account and a dollar account. In my experience, I lived with Eskimos when I was a kid, and I lived in the Philippines as a missionary as a kid, and
Okay.
that really like got me thinking more globally.
Mhm.
And since I started publishing books, I've been invited to speak at family office events like in Dubai and in Monaco and other places and in Saudi Arabia. So um, just thinking more internationally, the vision is if you look at what's going on, even if you know nothing about crypto, a lot of people are aware that like gold has gone up a lot in value, and the U.S. is finally sort of more pro crypto with the current administration. The last one was very much attacking crypto,
Mhm.
and so most people are aware of those two things. If they know nothing else about crypto, they know the
Sure.
current government in the U.S. is pro it, and they know that something's going on with gold. Like, oh, it was used to be 1,500 an ounce 2 years ago, and now it's 4,400 an ounce. What's going on?
Yeah.
So the vision I see is this. The other two big macro trends, just for our fellow marketing friends, the trend is your friend, right? The EU announced they're rolling out basically CBDCs, and they're making it officially like next October. So just a little under a year from now. The UK announced that they're trying to force everyone to use digital IDs. So one thing that came out of the COVID lockdowns is all of the tech exists for a government to try to force its citizens to use a digital ID
Mhm.
and force them to use a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. So we in America, we're so freedom oriented, right? Like we own more guns than anyone. We have a very independent, you're not the boss of me kind of spirit. Even if you
Mhm.
work for someone, we just love freedom as Americans. And so what I see what we're doing with gold is our venture is called Gold Plus Coin. Gives you
Okay.
the inflation protection of gold plus the convenient spendability of digital coins. Whether you think if you whip out your debit card and buy something, even if you're overseas, you can use your debit card. And all those credit card networks do that conversion, right? You don't have to convert your dollars to euros. Say you're in Paris hanging out with Eric for a week, Kevin, brother Dewey, and he's showing you around town. You can just use your American debit card, and all that conversion happens in the network. So
Okay.
our vision is to give people who just want to have diversity of funds, digital money, digital gold that they could spend as easily as they spend their dollars or their euros or their yen with their debit card or their credit card, no matter where in the world they may be traveling. So that's the vision for for gold plus coin. And just to give you an idea, a couple little macro numbers that are
Yeah.
pretty neat. I'm a math nerd, so this is neat to me. The central bankers only have 6 trillion of the 18 trillion of gold that has been pulled out of the ground, that's been mined out of the ground in the last 6,000 years. Gold doesn't go away. If jewelry breaks, they recycle it and turn it into a coin, or they turn it into another necklace or
Hmm.
bracelet or a ring.
Hmm.
So that's how much there is. 18 trillion of gold, last 6,000 years. The central banks have a third of it, 6 trillion.
Okay.
Now they've created $4 quadrillion of debt with that. So the system is breaking. This is why we see things get more and more expensive. All this inflation, they've just printed too much money. Now, here's what I'm excited about with gold. The rest of the gold is held by private people, the other 12 trillion. Now, here's a neat thing. There's another 18 to 60 trillion dollars of gold, Kevin, in the ground. So just as much as they have taken out of the ground, there's an equal amount in the ground. And we also have all the technology needed and the laws, by the way, really important. Remember I told you all the regulations for
Hmm.
tokenizing in-ground gold? We have all of the laws that we need internationally to, with full securities compliance, tokenize the gold in the ground. So our vision is BlackRock says by 2033, that's only 8 years from now, about seven, right? We're about to go into 2026. By 2033, next 7 years, that the real world asset market cap will somewhere between 15 and 19 trillion dollars. So global wealth is multiple quadrillion. So that's a small amount of money. But where it's neat is to me is if the central banks can really control our lives with only $6 trillion of gold, if we can literally say represent those of us who are freedom lovers, I want to give you choice. If we can control $2 to $5 trillion of gold that's proven that's in the ground, that security is compliant, we can really help facilitate like a next level of abundance. Like think about all that extra capital helping people start businesses, employ their fellow people, like people in Africa or in Asia or South America, places that have a lot of resources, but they've been historically poor generally because of mismanagement of their money, actually.
Hmm.
And it talks about King Solomon talked about the poor oftentimes will get rich by oppressing the poor, and God really does not like that.
Yeah.
We have a great opportunity, just like Diamandis talks about, we're in this era of abundance to like generally like we could literally raise the standard of living where say an average person in the Philippines makes $500 a month. We can help people in those kind of countries like double or triple or quadruple their GDP, their average salary, by using these in-ground resources and tokenizing them. And we're not going to take that money, Kevin, and just buy a bunch of yachts. I don't want to play that billionaire game. We want to invest in these poor economies to help them. Like, what if the average Filipino wasn't making 500 a month? They're making 2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And you can take it from the third world to the first world. This is our vision for Gold Plus Coin.
Mhm.
Use these resources to really create next level abundance, just like Richard Branson talks about, like Peter Diamandis talks about, like Elon Musk has been talking about.
Yeah.
So that's our vision for Gold Plus Coin.
Wow. So I didn't have, because even though you and I go back for a while, it's been a couple of years since you and I have spoken.
Right.
And so I was not up to speed on what you've been working on and stuff, just
Mhm.
peripheral, seeing a little bit here, a little bit there, but not really, and so what you've shared here is just really, this is really fascinating. And it's really got my attention. I imagine it's got the attention of other people that are listening in on this too and stuff. And so I'll make sure we get like website resources to share with folks for anybody who does want to like just find out more about what you're talking about and stuff too. And so, wow, this is really fascinating because you're right, and like especially entrepreneurs, who that's been our world for years. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for, 30 years now.
Right.
And the reason I became an entrepreneur was because I wanted to be able to control my own destiny. I wanted to be able to have this freedom that you're talking about and stuff. And entrepreneurs, man, nobody works harder than an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And because it's all about freedom and about, we all have this vision that we would just want to see come to pass.
Right.
and we will go I mean we will commit to that and dedicate ourselves to that, but especially when it's something we're just so doggone passionate about. And by the way, David, there is no hiding your passion for this. I mean, that comes through loud and clear, you know. and
Mhm.
uh and so, you know, I know that there's a lot of people that are listening to this going, yeah, man, I'm with you on this and stuff. And there's, a lot of people feel that, money and resources have been mismanaged, and they want to take a more active role in managing that for themselves,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so, and that's exactly what you're speaking to right here and stuff, So, well, okay, so now that we've set a little bit of context here, and
Mhm.
and people know, what you're all about and stuff, I want to switch gears just a little bit, but the conversation is really gonna get good here. I want to switch gears, and I want to start talking about relationships a little bit. And the way I want to start by asking you an initial question, which is, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons
Mhm.
who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for the question, Kevin. I just published my memoir a couple months ago, and all of my previous books is my fourth book. My previous three books, I all wrote them within 4 to 6 weeks. I
Okay.
would literally just like do a bunch of work for a couple of weeks or
Uh-huh.
3 weeks, clear the decks for 3 weeks and do nothing but write and just get it done. Well, my memoir, it was way harder to write emotionally because I was almost like reliving some of these experiences, and I did not
Okay.
realize I had not fully released the emotional weight. So it's actually a really cathartic process to write the memoir. And I was around a lot of murder as a kid. I'm not trying to freak people out, but I was around a lot of violent people. So, like Alex Sharpton talks about, the average entrepreneur doesn't realize it, but they have a lot of PTSD from the risk of all that responsibility, like all the payroll, these other people's lives, your
Yeah.
responsibility. People are trying to cheat you, steal money from you, steal IP from you, just all the things we deal with. It's like a kind of it's really an emotional war.
Hmm.
And if you don't
Hmm.
have good techniques to release that energy from your body, you will self-medicate with porn, or you'll drink, or you'll rage at yell at your family, whatever the thing is. I went to 12 step for a while. So, and when it comes to relationship, why I give that backstory is I had a very like workaholic stepdad and was always looking for affirmation from older men because words of encouragement is my number one love language. And I did not get words of encouragement from my father figure. And most kids, not everyone, but for most kids, their mom is a better communicator than their dad at affirming them and encouraging them. So I was always looking to older businessmen, mentors, and trying to impress them. I remember the first time I talked to a billionaire was in 2012, and I was like ready to crap my pants. Like I so wanted this guy to like me and
Uh-huh.
say one positive thing to me. So from 12 to 16, 2012 to 2016, God did a great healing work in my life. And I was able to see older men just like love them for who they are and realize I can add value to them just by who I am, even just by being a good listener. I don't need to
Yes.
impress them with achieving something in business. So with that framework, one of my older friends is a guy named Jim. And actually, when I first started Gold Plus Coin, I employed Jim for a while. Now, Jim is about 20 years my senior. I'm young 50s, he's young 70s.
Okay.
So there was an opportunity where Jim is very entrepreneurial. I think he's a 25-year-old. He's so excited and excited about entrepreneurship and contribution, very collaborative. Like, he's our kind of guy.
Mhm.
And so I hired Jim. I'm excited to add value to him, pay him, serve him and his family. And we agreed on a few things for him to do. And he worked with me for 3 months. And he did like one of the 10 things we agreed that he was going to do. And so I was very tempted. Thank God I had already done all that had emotional healing from 12 to 16 to like chew him out. But I didn't. Like, that's not going to be productive. And so I just said, look, Jim, um, thank you for doing this one thing, but the other nine you didn't do. And, I have to let you go. And he actually cried in that conversation and I loved him, but it was not serve him or me. I wasn't helping him
Yeah.
by working with me. And like, there was just become more and more of a strife kind of energy
Mhm.
if we kept working together. And I love and appreciate our relationship, did not want to blow up on Jim. So I let him go. If you would have asked me a week after I let him go, was that a good hire? Every metric that we know of would say, bad decision, Dave. You didn't manage him well, you didn't screen him well, something, or both.
Hmm.
And so, but he did make one introduction to another guy named Rob
Okay.
2 weeks before I had to let him go. That was part of one of the 10 things. Introduced me to Rob. Well,
Okay.
Rob is one of my key guys with Gold Plus Coin. And he's just so generous. He's like the ultimate networker in technology and a couple other areas of business.
Okay.
And so Rob and I collaborate very well. And Rob's like you would say, like key man insurance. If someone right now we're talking to a sovereign wealth fund, I won't say which one, I'm keeping it private, but they may give us $1 billion to $2 billion line of credit. I
Okay.
don't know about you, Kevin, but like I've never done a business that did more than 5 million a year in sales. Like a lot of the kind of guys we know, they have 1 to 20, $50 million a year businesses, but most
Mhm.
of them are in that 1 to 20 or 5 to 10 range, right?
Yeah.
And I never built a business bigger than that thus far. So when I have a sovereign wealth fund looking at giving me $2 billion, because I did a lot of nervous system and emotional healing work, like I'm not nervous one iota. If tomorrow they said, David, which account do we wire the 2 billion to? Like I'm ready to receive it.
Mhm.
But working with Rob, it's really neat how sometimes a relationship where things don't seem to go the way you would hope, like God can give you one little blessing out of that relationship. And if you nurture and like a seed, right? You plant it in the soil, you water it, you tend to it, it can grow the most amazing fruit tree that
Yeah.
nourishes thousands. And I
Yeah.
feel like that incident with Jim, and then Jim's wife actually just died recently, and I reconnected with him just like in
Okay.
the last 2 months. But it's sort of wild how at the time I was really disappointed when I had to let him go that someone this close to me let
Yeah.
me down this much. But that one thing he did do, specifically introduced me to Rob. Like Rob is one of my key people now, and so like yeah, just I would just encourage a listener or watcher, however they're consuming this or reading the transcript, like if you get only one good thing out of a relationship and you feel really disappointed or that didn't work, uh, be open to receive the blessing from that one thing. Because that one thing Jim did for me with Rob, like, has been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And you're
And
right.
Rob
You
and
know,
I
you,
both regularly talk to billionaires and it doesn't phase us. Like we're Rob's ex-military, he says we're click bang guys. This is a fun little thing I want to encourage the people watching this episode to think about. We need to have such integrity and commitment to service to the world that if someone wanted to steal our IP and literally like our thing needs to be so big that it's for humanity, it's not for us. Like if literally someone put a gun to my head and said, "Give me all the IP for Gold Plus Coin," or I'm going to pull the trigger, I'd be like, "Pull the trigger. I'm not afraid of death. I'm going to go to be with God." Like Gold Plus Coin is not mine. It's not about me. It's not attached to my identity. I don't need any validation from it. It's about service.
yeah.
Like I would encourage everyone, shift your mindset to service to that level that you don't care if you die. Like it'll go on without you. Not flippantly,
Yeah.
like you want to be dead or you're not going to miss the fact you can't invest time and serve your family and be with your friends. But like we need that level of stewardship of our thing that the thing lives on without us and keeps serving humanity long after we're gone. So this is like a big shift I made in my thinking, and it's like really cool to have someone to run with that has that same mindset. Like
Yeah.
neither of us are afraid to die. It's like we know what God called us to do. We're going to do it with excellence. We're going to be humble every day. Ask God for direction. Like we're the manager, God's the CEO. That's a really fun mind frame to play with, to really maximize your intuition and receiving of creative business ideas. And yeah, that it's just a real blessing to work with someone so values aligned. So props to Jim, and thank God for Rob, and
Yeah.
hopefully people get value from that experience.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting. So how many billionaires have you had conversations with?
I think I'm at 139 now. I think the next one will be 140.
Okay. Okay.
There's about 3,000 in the world. So at the clip I'm going, maybe I'll have talked to 10% of them in the next 5 years. It seems like I'm getting introduced to them more and more and more regularly.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
used to be a big emotional thing. Like I really wanted
Yep.
them to like me. And now I'm like, if I got introduced to Elon Musk, he is one of my favorite billionaires. I would be like, I know I can help him with his family dynamic. So I'll just be focused on service. Like I wouldn't be nervous. So
Yeah.
yeah, almost to 140, 139.
I love that, and I love what you shared. Because you also mentioned Eric Dewey, and
Mhm.
when COVID happened, I remember shortly after COVID in 2020, probably, I don't know, probably April or May, I was talking with Eric. And,
Hmm.
a lot of people were really negatively impacted by COVID.
Hmm.
Some of us, it represented a pivot point, which that's where I was. It was a pivot point for me.
Right.
And I recognized that not only did I need to make a pivot, I actually, what came from it, I wanted to do. And especially when I started experiencing it, I'm like, ooh, I want to do more of this.
Hmm.
And, but a lot of people, I mean, I look at restaurants, for example, a lot of restaurants, a lot of gyms were shut down and they didn't survive. A lot of them just didn't
Right.
survive. They couldn't survive that. And and what Eric and I were having a conversation and just about how do you deal with all the stuff that's going
Mhm.
on. And in my own home, watching my own kids, how they're social, they are so social, and now they're at home, no socializing with anybody.
Right.
And I know, like, even that first year, my son Brock, well, so he's 17 now, so he would have been 12 then. And having his 12th birthday that year in April, and April 20th was, and realizing I can't see none of my friends for my birthday. And by that summer, he was like, Dad, could I invite Jim over if we promised to stay outside by the fire pit and we didn't get near each other and all that? I mean, he's like, I just want to see my friends.
Right.
And so many people going through so many emotional things around that. And I remember having a conversation with Eric, and he was asking me, he's, well, how do you deal with this, Kev? And I said, you know what? I was like, I'm really blessed in that I get to talk with a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm talking with entrepreneurs every single day. And and what I have found is exactly what you mentioned, David. And I told him, I said, I said, when we are in service of others, there
Hmm.
is no fear. You just don't think of all that other stuff going on. And so I just keep on trying to focus on just being in service of others. And he just kind of took that, and he's like, he ran with that too. And then we ended up having follow-up conversations from that. And he's like, you know what, Kevin? He's like, you're totally right. When we are in just genuine service of others, it's just everything else just dissipates. Everything else. And I've been that way ever since. And now, granted, us who are givers, and we do have to be, what's the right word? I don't know that careful is the right word. Maybe intentional is the right word.
Hmm.
Because if we're just a giver through and through, and we get in with a crowd of people who are not givers and more like takers, and what can they get? Boy,
The time vampires or energy vampires, as Dan Kennedy calls them.
yes, yes, that can really wreak havoc on you. So we've got to surround ourselves by other givers is what we need to do.
Hmm.
People who just show up ready to help and contribute and pour into others, and that's just who they are and how they show up. That's hardwired into their DNA. You're that way, David.
Hmm.
And but when we are that way, and it doesn't matter who we're talking with. It doesn't, I mean, my goodness, I look at, because of this podcast, you're right. My sphere of influence previously was entrepreneurs running businesses in that range of, I don't know, 500,000 to maybe 10 million, maybe 20 million.
Hmm.
But now, because of the podcast, my goodness, I'm talking with entrepreneurs regularly who have businesses doing 100 million, 500 million, 750 million,
Awesome.
and the thing is what I found just by interviewing for the podcast, that we're all doing the best we can with what we got and stuff.
Hmm.
We're all putting our best foot forward. We're all using our business as the vehicle to make our biggest impact. And we're all way more alike than we are different. And when you
Right.
when you realize that, you're like, you know what? Yeah, it doesn't matter whether I'm talking to Elon Musk or the guy down the street. It doesn't matter. I'm just having a conversation with somebody.
Mhm.
And I'm just, in the back of my mind, I'm just like, I'm just going to figure out how I can be of service. And everything else just dissipates. And what a powerful thing. What a powerful thing. Well, so what is an example of a situation where you personally, David, you personally got to make a really substantial impact, and maybe even the moment, maybe it even surprised you a little bit, but you also know that that would have never been possible if not for your relationship with either one of the gentlemen that you've been talking about. What's an example of something like that?
Well, I'll give a real recent example.
Okay.
There are two different gold mines, each with over $100 billion of gold. So I know that's a big number, right?
Yeah.
2 years ago, that number sort of would have freaked me out. At the beginning of Gold Plus Coin,
Mhm.
I talked to like five gold mine owners that I knew from all of my 20 years of business experience. I only knew five, and got one of those people to agree to sell me some of their gold. Okay.
Okay.
This
Okay.
was for like, this was for $2.5 billion worth of gold. To give you
Okay.
perspective. And so I had done enough work where that number didn't scare me and freak me out. It did inspire me, and I'm like, I can do this, right? But
Mhm.
if that person would have said and referred me to their friend and say, "Here's 100 billion," I'd be freaking out, like, no, 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 I can't handle 100 billion in gold, not me. And
Yeah.
so I've gotten more comfortable with bigger numbers
Mhm.
as I've been going through the process of
Yeah.
launching the company. And it's sort of what I've done in the last 6 months, Kevin, is really decided like I'm gonna Jesus. There's this book called The Man Code. It's about how Jesus, when he was alive on the earth, had three core guys, his inner circle top advisors. Then he had 12 guys that were his main coworkers, right? His business team, if you will. And
Mhm.
then he had like 500, his core sphere of influence. And so I was like, I had my 500 and my 12, but I wasn't really picking or being super intentional about my three. So in the
Okay.
last 6 months, I really decided I'm going to invest a lot more time with my three
Mhm.
and my 12. And so I've actually almost disappeared on social media, like my 500. I probably post like once a month now, and I used to post probably 3 times a week. And
Okay.
so that's just for a season. We haven't
Yeah.
launched our token yet. So in this season, I'm gonna go very deep relationally with my core guys. And in that process, in the last 3 months, we got introduced to five different owners of collections of mining claims with all over $100 billion of gold.
Wow.
Now, why this number
Wow.
is significant, Kevin, is the vision is in 3 to 5 years from now, we want to, of Gold Plus Coin alone, our token, or be part of a suite of other real world asset tokens, have 500 billion to $1 trillion market cap. And that's very, very doable because Tether, which is the biggest dollar-based stable coin, and USDC, they have like a combined 300 billion market cap. And they're dollar based, and the dollar keeps losing purchasing power because of inflation, right?
Mhm.
No
Mhm.
currencies are backed by gold since 1972 when Nixon closed the gold window. So it's been 50 years like that. So that's why everything keeps going up in price. So just to give you perspective, it's neat that um, these guys have a 300 billion combined market cap. With a good marketing campaign, you should hold some digital gold to go with your digital dollars because the gold preserves your purchasing power and the dollar doesn't.
Okay.
It's just like have both. It's not either or, have some of both. And so with that vision of having 500 billion market cap, it's sort of neat. Like we might be able to hit that in the next year and a half. But it was sort of a when it rains, it pours. And so relationally, what happened? You asked a question about relationship. There was a challenge with a guy, actually two guys with involved with three of these five mining claims we can potentially buy.
Okay.
And so the way I handled it was one of my three guys that I'm going very deep with, I would mastermind with him and say, hey, I'm suspecting, based upon what this guy said and his tonality, we're dealing with ABC. And I didn't say something to him based on that. I would ask my other two core guys, right, on my three, what do you sense is going on? So we would literally mastermind what is the best way to work effectively with this person and address this challenge, like resolve this roadblock.
Okay.
And so this happened. There were three roadblocks with these two guys in a 2 week period, and one of them didn't resolve, but one of them did, and the other one we're resolving right now. So it's sort of neat. There's a two-step lesson there. One is um, like respond, don't react.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like part of our decision making is I never make a decision, even though I'm technically the CEO of Gold Plus Coin. I'm always going to go to my advisors and get their counsel. That's part of how King
Okay.
Solomon built in today's money, an $8 trillion fortune.
Wow.
It used to be four, gold has doubled since I published my last book, my new memoir, Reject to Royal. Fun little thing on the cover, if you can see it right here. I don't have one right with me, but I basically took a stained glass window of King Solomon. It's
Uh-huh.
in a church in Eastern Europe, like an Orthodox church. It's on the wall, and I used an AI and had a graphics guy literally put my face in the place of King Solomon's face, and that's
Okay. Okay.
so I love the artist Prince, the singer.
Hmm.
So the little dots on the cover there are from the album. Hilarious. I'm forgetting the name of the album now. 1999. There's
Okay.
those dots on the 1999
Yep.
covers where the
Yep.
dots come from. And the thing that's from King Solomon. So
Okay. Okay.
fun little
Very-
thing on the cover of my book. But what's neat is I worked with my advisors the way King Solomon does, and we just addressed the stuff and we're getting breakthrough. When
Yeah.
you're dealing with large amounts of money, you deal with higher level stronger emotions of greed and pride. Like if someone wants to do a deal, like they're still trying to prove their worth to the world,
Hmm.
like two of these three guys are definitely in that headspace.
Okay.
And the cool thing is, I used to be there. But
Hmm.
between 12 and 16, I very intentionally released that rejection identity and I stopped trying to prove myself with business deals. And now I'm able to just like approach any deal from a place of peace. So that was a neat way that relationally I put relationship above any deal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like things are accelerating and growing so quickly. It's almost like the more detached you are from the outcome, the easier it is to work on bigger stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was a neat thing. I hope I answered the question fully. I have to admit towards the end, I'm like, did I fully answer this?
No,
So this
but
we
that was
really
really,
resolved some relational conflict from a place of peace with advisors. It was really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. No, that was really brilliant. That was really brilliant. And you know what you said right there about just detaching ourselves emotionally from the outcome, because, I've quite often find myself in conversations with people that like, man, I could really help them in such a powerful way.
Mhm.
And yet for whatever reason they might not see that. And I just let that go.
Mhm.
And because it does take two, it's got to be both sides here. And kind of like you said, you got somebody showing up a certain way and stuff, and you got to decide, well, is this going to be, can we work through this? Is this okay that they're showing up
Mhm.
this way? And how do I feel about that? But be able to detach ourselves emotionally from that, which, you know what, not the easiest thing to do. But I remember my buddy Jesse Elder. I remember he made a comment to me 12 years ago, and
Mhm.
and it really struck me because we were having a conversation, and I don't know what brought it up, but he was like, Kevin, I've got nothing to hide and nothing to prove. And
Mhm.
I almost did a double. I'm like, wow. And I'm like, you know what? I want to be able to show up that way, you
Yeah.
know, nothing to hide and nothing to prove. And I will tell you what, now after doing work like you've done, I get to show up that way. And I will tell you that is such a freeing way to show up. That we don't care what the outcome is be. Would I like to work with this person if they saw this? Yes, I absolutely would. But if they don't see it, you know what? I'm okay with that too, because that just means there's another opportunity.
Mhm.
And just us being okay with that. And letting God and the universe kind of play their role too in some of this stuff.
Mhm.
And know that we're just kind of co-creating and collaborating. And so and
Definitely.
take some of that weight off of our own shoulders. And lighten up a little bit and just have some fun. And that's really, I mean, what you're talking about here is, I mean, your message, it's going to resonate. It resonates with the right people. The right people are going to be like, man, I like this guy and I like what he's talking about. I like what he stands for, and I'd like to find out more about what he's talking about. And I guarantee you that there's people listening to this right now that are thinking that, and I want to make sure we don't leave them hanging either. And so,
Mhm.
any websites, any resources we can share with them, David?
Yeah, sure. Our website for Gold Plus Coin is just goldpluscoin.com, just spelled
Okay.
out. And yeah, we have a Gold Plus Coin on X, and then I'm my name everywhere on all the socials. It's just my name, my full name,
Okay.
David Roy Newby. So I use my middle name on everything now, ROY
Okay.
and NEWBY. But it's funny you talked about wanting to help people, but being light about it. I literally had a guy last week Like I made a very specific request of him. I always make requests. I never use force. I always use love instead of fear for motivation. But I just made a very powerful request, and he literally took it as me challenging him and started like cussing. And I literally muted the phone. It wasn't a video call, it was a group conference call. I literally muted the phone and was just laughed out loud. I was like, thank you, God. I used to be like this. Like I probably used to be very defensive and would not want to be challenged. And he took it that way. And like, thank you that I'm not in that place anymore.
Yeah.
But it was so cool to like have no emotional like I didn't take any offense that he literally just cussed me out. I just laughed and unmuted and just moved on. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, and like I said, that's a really powerful place to be able to come from. You know,
Mhm.
it takes, you know, because you know what, like what you were talking about as far as like, you know, when you first start having these conversation with billionaires and you just wanted them to like you and just wanted their approval, you know, but I've totally been there. I've been in that spot too, you know. I mean, I think that's part of kind of what got me into doing what I do now because I liked getting the attaboy. And I ain't gonna lie, I still do. I love it when I make an introduction, you know, because I regularly make introductions now that lead to 5 figure, 6 figure, 7 figure opportunities and stuff. We do that all the time. And
Yeah, I think you'll have
and
some nine figures coming soon with the way you're networking.
absolutely, totally. In fact, that is I put that out there all the time that I want to be making 8 and 9 figure impact. And you know, I want to spend I mean, you know, I want to thank Giovanni Marsico for that because there was a conversation that I had with him not that long ago where
Mhm.
because at that point, I had just put a deal together where these two guys did 1.4 million in revenue together in just 4 months, and
Awesome.
and uh, and that was pretty recent to when Giovanni and I were having this conversation, and I was sharing that with him, and he's like, "Well, Kev," he's like, "So now from this vantage point." What do you see going forward? And I said, oh, well, so now I can totally see doing 2 million, 5 million, $10 million introductions and stuff for people, you know? And he kind of chuckles and he's like, Kev, he's like, you are going to be making introductions. We're so much more than that. And as soon
Yeah,
as he
forgive me for
said,
being limiting, Kevin. Let's leave the 10 and 11. Let's 6 billion and 10 billion plus introductions.
there we go. There we
God can
go.
do anything through us if we just
Yeah,
leave it in the realm of the possible, not even
totally.
wanting it, but we're open to the possibility.
Absolutely. Yes. Open to the possibility. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing right there is just allowing ourselves to be that vessel, that steward, you know,
Mhm.
and just letting God and the universe work through us and just allow us to just use our God-given gifts to the best of our ability, you know. And
Mhm.
so, well, any last thing that you feel led to share, David, before we call it a wrap?
Um, I think we're in a season of the world where the level of uncertainty is accelerating between AI, countries talking about CBDCs and digital IDs. I mean, literally, I know people, Kevin, who have had 15 million, 53 million, 120 million, two different families, and another family had 1.5 billion, all taken from them.
Wow.
All
Wow.
of them except the 1.55 billion, except for the 1.5 billion, lost it instantly. Can you imagine you look in your bank account one morning and you see 120 million and the next day you see zero? Like I know two families that experienced that. So
Wow.
when I used to meet these people, I realized as a kid, like in seventh grade, I tell the story in my memoir, that two of my friends told me that they had been molested by people, relatives, when I was in seventh grade. And at the time, I remember feeling like, man, I wish I could help them. Like, I don't know how to help them. I realize now just being a safe person to share that with was helping in and of itself. Like there's gonna be no judgment. There's not gonna be any, just like they
Yeah.
just felt safe.
Yeah.
So like providing that safety, I think of Jesse Elder. I saw one of his posts where he said, safety is the foundation of all relational other things built. Love, trust. It all starts with safety, like a nervous system safety, an experiential safety, like someone says they're gonna do something and they do it. Safety grows the more that happens. So I think I would share is um, really exercise your risk muscle, not in the whole entrepreneur. I'm used to doing $10 million deals. I'm gonna stretch myself and go try to do a 50 or $100 million deal. That is one way to do it. But another way to stretch your risk profile is like one of King Solomon's teachings is have no consideration for wealth because it can fly off to the sky like an eagle. And meeting people who have lost up to $120 million literally overnight, that teaching is much more real to me. So in this era of uncertainty, I would say two things. One is just realize there is no amount of money that can make you set or safe. Like you always need to be diligent and diligently steward what you have. So I would say, one thing I just feel need to share it. On our website, goldpluscoin.com/protect.
Okay.
I gave like a 45-minute video presentation. You know, I'll just download the PDF if you want to speed read it. And
Okay.
I gave you 7 strategies to model King Solomon, who was the richest guy in the world. I
Mhm.
actually posted on X when all these people last week were saying Elon Musk is the first guy to be worth 600 billion. I wrote on one of them, I'm like, congratulations, Elon. This is awesome. I'm like, you're 10% of the way to King Solomon's wealth. Keep at it, you know? You got something you can
That's
shoot for.
awesome.
Shoot to King Solomon's level of global impact. But I just sort of share 7 strategies to diversify your wealth and model Solomon so that that risk of someone, be it a government, like they try to debank Trump and or another person, another entity trying to steal your business from you, whether they sue you or steal your IP, whatever, that can just be a really simple way. It takes literally 5 hours to do all of the techniques except for 2 of them. And
Yeah.
you'll be like 99% safer than all of your peers if you just implement the strategies I gave there. So I would say like be willing to risk and be willing to do stuff you've never done before. Like most people that we know, like are in America, I would say 80% of my networks in America. And for most American businesses, it's probably 95, and that's normal. If you grew up in France, probably 95% of who you know are French people
Hmm.
and do business with. But I would say think internationally in light of what's going on in the global financial systems and just be willing to stretch yourself and diversify. Don't take like there's a whole normalcy bias. We've been in the richest country in the world, most of us under 80 years old in America. That has been our experience our whole life.
Yeah.
But every country is not always forever the richest country in the world. For 30 to 50 years, the UK, Britain was the richest country in the world. They're not anymore. So just embrace your inner King Solomon and really be willing to deal with uncertainty at a whole new level. I think those are the two last things I would leave with people
Yeah.
because things can get hairy and they are, and it's like it is a little scary, and we have the opportunity to ask God, how could I be part of creating another renaissance in the world?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how could we as business people come up with cool solutions no one else thought about because we're humble, we're open to receive those intuitive downloads from God, and then have the faith to like serve our fellow man and go do that thing, even if it's way bigger than we've ever done something before. That's the only reason I'm working on $100 billion deals because I exercised that openness. And it was just very, very humbling. So I'm so glad to talk with you. I always love our time together. And if this inspires someone to really stretch themselves, praise God, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, and I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. And so, thank you so much, David.
My pleasure. And it sounds like you're coming up on 350, 400. When you
Yeah.
said before you recorded 343 already just came out, I'm like, man, you're getting to the magic 400. That's exciting.
We're getting there. We're getting there, and I'm just enjoying the process. I am definitely enjoying the journey for sure.
Kevin, I just thought of a really bold thing. I have never done this before in a podcast. I've probably done 100 interviews between TV, radio, and podcasts for my books. I want to do it on the podcast if you're totally open to it. You can always
Sure.
cut it if you want, but how may I best pray for you and your family's success in closing? I want to do a quick closing prayer on the podcast here.
Well, I just want
Be
to. I just
personal, it can be health, it can be business, it can be anything.
Yeah. I just, I just want to keep being the conduit of trust and just, being the best steward I can of the gifts that I've been given, of the relationships in my life. That includes business. That also includes with my family, because those relationships, my relationship with my wife Lisa and my 7 children and our 6 soon to be 7 grandchildren,
Mhm.
that is all very important to me. So
Yeah, let's all do a quick closing prayer for that.
yeah.
Father, thank you for Kevin. Thank you for this podcast. Thank you for Kevin's impact, his positive impact on my life, the impact he's making on thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of people through his podcast. I just pray you would continue to use him to be a great steward of his relationships and his life and his family, his kids and his grandkids. That's so cool. He has 7 kids and about soon to be 7 grandkids. May they really just serve each other with excellence and pass on values and the gift of love and service and humility so that all of our families, even people listening to this, can build amazing, amazing businesses that impact the world and build amazing families. We don't need to decide between being a great family person or a great business person. We can do both. So just bless Kevin and all he touches his hand to do. May you expand our vision and may you use our skills and abilities in our businesses to impact tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people worldwide and whole industries. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Kevin, by the way, that is a fun thing I want to challenge everyone listening. One of the coolest things I've done that's really shifted my relationships is at the end of every business call, even if I'm talking to a billionaire atheist guy, I always ask them this question: how may I best pray for you and your family's success? I used to just say, how can I best pray for you? Or how can I pray for you? And they would be like confused. Or like, they're not, no one ever asked them to pray for them on a business call.
Mhm.
So then I started saying, how can I best pray for you in your family's success? So then it's sort of like it can be work, it can be personal. And a
Yeah.
lot of them have said like, oh, my mom has cancer or whatever, like real personal stuff. So it's a
Okay.
really cool way to show that you love the person you're talking to, whether you do business together
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
I would challenge people, like, don't wait till you feel like doing it. Just make yourself do it 1 out of every 5 calls for the next month and see what happens. It was amazingly transformative for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, David, once again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to getting this out there.
Thank you, Kevin. I love and
You
appreciate
bet.
it. God bless.